This is TNC Movie Nights, the review. Today we're doing Jurassic Park, and we wanted to do something kind of like what we talked about in our episode on Wednesday about cinematography. We wanted this to be more of a continuation on cinematography, so we can have some examples of what we were talking about earlier. And so we decided to do what we recommended. We went back and we wanted to see a movie that we both really liked, that is sort of universally considered to be a pretty good movie, and just kind of watch it again and let's see if there's something maybe in the background, maybe the way a shot's framed, props, lighting, whatever. Let's see if there's something that is done deliberately that we can notice, and then stop for a second and then just go, okay, no, why? And usually it's not in a pretentious high school English class way where we're gonna the blue curtains symbolize the struggle the characters were going through in this rough time in their life. None of that. Sometimes it's as simple as, like we were talking about pre-show, and actually the first time we tried to record this, but just like in Jurassic Park, booting up the fences again. What's happening? High voltage sign. What is that trying to convey? It's trying to convey that it's a high voltage fence and it's dangerous. That's it. Sometimes it's that simple. And so we're going to sort of do a continuation on that, and we're going to talk about more cinematography, because if we did just a basic Jurassic Park review, this video would be about this long, because we would both go, it's great, awesome, go see it if you haven't already, I don't know how, and then it would be over. So we're just going to get that out of the way. Jurassic Park's amazing, go see it. But now we're going to do a bit of instead of just doing that, we're going to sort of continue on our cinematography chat. Sorry, my camera keeps bouncing up and down again. I have a weird setup on a bed. But we're going to continue our cinematography talk and sort of do a breakdown on some of those moments. And I do want to preface this by saying sometimes it's kind of hard to do that because the director and the cinematographer and the whole staff, they work so closely together that, especially when you're talking about things like, certain shot angles or framing or stuff like that, is that because the director wanted it that way? Is because that's the way the cinematographer set it up based off the director's vision? Is it something that the cinematographer brought to the table? Is it something that the camera guy or girl just decided to do because that's what they thought looked best? Is it the way the actor wanted to show? Who knows? But just in that sort of job description of a cinematographer, we're going to go over some of those slightly more in-depth moments that you might not notice consciously, but it definitely has an effect on how you view the movie. Before we do that, Brandon, how you been?
Doing all right, man. It's our, third time you're attempting to record this now. It keeps cutting out on us for some reason. So, outside of that, I was trying to make it through the week. Tomorrow might be my last full day at work, so that's kind of crazy. We'll definitely see, though. I'm excited. Going to be a fun journey to see if I can do the whole, streaming, podcasting stuff, and, just see where it goes. But how are you? How are you doing? How's the North Carolina life right now?
Tiring. I'm very tired. I'm working on this van a lot, and I'm ready for it to be done. And I'm ready to be driving around in it, which sounds like a very poor me, but I'm also just tired. So excited though for this to be done, and then we'll be on the road, and then I can be in a whole bunch of other random weird setups, but from the van. So that'll be fun. But Jurassic Park cinematography. Again, because didn't record the first time. How was it like going back and watching this movie, trying to pick up some of those more deliberate but subtle moments?
I'll be pretty honest. It was difficult being someone who doesn't try to dissect movies that deeply, just outside of like what's going on with the plot and just the story and just everything that's driven in that aspect of it. So I watched the movie all the way through, and it ended, and I was like, I have nothing to say for the show because I just didn't catch on anything. So I kind of ran through the movie again and tried to just pick up on things I visually saw, of course. And there were certain things that did kind of stick out, that really trying to focus on it. And that was, like the high voltage sign when the doors were opening and it was raining, and it's kind of like a danger, like this area is dangerous, and there's high voltage stuff, like, so little things like that, very direct in your face. Then there was another one very late in the movie when they're in, like, right before the kitchen scene when they're being chased by the velociraptors, and there's like a fat head or like a painting of a velociraptor on the wall, and you see like the shadow of the velociraptor like come right into place on top of that, which little things like that were really cool. And trying to focus on it more, it was easier to pick up on. Sometimes I
Hmm.
just get lost, like, this is a fun movie, I'm having a good time, dinosaurs, yeah. So trying to pull yourself away from that to really just dissect a little bit more. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a super like pretentious trying to completely crazily dissect things. But to mention something that I did kind of see like that was in the beginning of the film, when they're back in like his trailer with like the doctor for the first time,
Hmm.
and he's like popping the champagne, and like you see the how messy his whole like trailer setup is. That was one of the only ones that really did kind of stick out to me of like, I know is in the previous one we tried to record, how you said it was so messy and dirty, and it's because that's what they're doing. Like they're just in a messy environment, and that's like their life. So those are
Yeah.
kind of the three big ones that I was able to pick up on through the movie, trying to take myself away from just enjoy plot, enjoy cool dinosaurs. So
Yeah, no, those are great, man. And I really like that last one because that's a great way that a cinematographer slash director slash props department slash a whole group of people can really get across a lot of information without having to say anything. Like you see that trailer and we know it's theirs because hey, we were saving that kind of stuff. Like what that's okay, this is their space. And it's a mess and it's a trailer out just in the desert. And so you're like, okay, well, we know that they're not going to be that lab coat with a tie under it, very prim and proper sort of, oh yes, we're going to discover the dinosaurs today. No, they're kind of, we get to know a little bit about them. They're more hiking boots out in the desert, brushing some sand off, go inside, it's messy, have a beer, like that type of thing. And it doesn't, it's not relevant to like the plot necessarily, but we learn a lot about Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler just by looking at the space that they work in, and you get to know a little bit about them. We see it later on with Nedry, Dennis Nedry, when he's sitting at his desk and it's an absolute mess everywhere. You're like, okay, in a room full of very nice, neat workspaces, his is just a complete cluster. And you're like, okay, well, now I know that this guy's kind of sloppy and messy. But then also, if we look, he's got three monitors in front of him, bunch of folders open, and there's a game of chess in the background. So he's also very smart because he's so smart. He's doing his entire job and he's winning at a game of chess. Little stuff like that. You don't really notice it, but you're like, okay, he's messy, he's a slob, but he's smart. And it's little stuff like that. And I got a bunch of them. Is there anything you
I
want?
want to jump in real quick on that one
Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah.
and this does just show like the difference on how we watch movies, because I did see the chess game, and all I
Mhm.
thought to myself was like, cool, I like chess, that's awesome. And then I just kept watching the movie. So
Yeah, but it's like that's yeah, that's totally fine to do that. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But every once in a while, if you stop yourself and you go, okay, but why did someone choose to put that there? And then you're like, okay, he's playing chess at work. So he's not very focused, but everything's running smoothly until he screws it up, obviously. But you're like, he's a smart dude. It's a smart people game, and he has so much time that he can literally just be playing chess while he's working. And so it's little stuff like that that you're like, oh, okay, we're learning a little bit about these characters.
yeah.
And a lot of the ones that I have written down here that I wanted to talk about, for some reason, a lot of the ones have to do with like a specific shot or the framing of a scene, or that it's like that. And again, it's so hard because I wasn't there. I don't know if it was all the director's idea. I don't know if it was the cinematographer's idea. I don't know if it was one of the actors or actresses. I don't know if it was the cameraman or camerawoman. I don't know. But it falls under the category of things that the cinematographer is in charge of. So I'm just gonna put those out there. If you are a movie buff or you worked at Jurassic Park or whatever, and you're like, that wasn't their idea, that was mine. I am sorry.
And
Or
if you
if there's
did,
a
we'd love to
story,
do an interview with you if you worked on
yeah,
Jurassic
for
Park.
real. What's up? Hit us up. DM us. We check everything. But one of the first ones that I've written down was one of the very first shots of the movie. We, when they're lowering the Velociraptor cage right before the
Hmm.
first person gets eaten, we jump from inside the cage to outside the cage and then back inside the cage. And I think what that really beautifully does is when we're inside the cage, immediately we know it's a point of view shot because we hear the raptor, but the subtle ones, not the screeches that we hear from the outside. We hear the grunts and the growls and all that stuff, and it's also moving around naturally like you would. So you immediately know this is the raptor, and then based on those movements and those growls, we know not a very happy raptor. And so from the combination of that shot to how serious it is outside, without having to say, hey, did you know that this raptor is dangerous and it might eat somebody? Just subconsciously and emotionally, we're all sitting there going, uh-oh. Just that little bit of uh-oh. You're like, oh, okay, because they've established that there's a raptor in here. We know that it's not very happy because we were inside the cage for a minute. And we know that it's not very friendly because we can see what's going on outside the cage. And all of that information is conveyed just with a couple of shots. And I think it is done really, really well. Anything about that before I hop into the next one? Because I'm going to be jumping all over the place here. I tried to keep them as they happened.
Yeah.
But please feel free to climb all over this, because if not, I'm going to be talking a lot this episode.
No, which honestly, and that's what I'm expecting, because again, I didn't catch something like that, so it is kind of interesting to hear a different perspective of things that you can interpret in different ways. Because it's just so weird. Like, again, I'm excited to kind of like develop my mentality to see movies like this as we do watch more and more, because I just see a scene like that, I'm like, yeah, it's raining and they're showing us a dinosaur for the first time, just to see like the environment we're going to be in, and that's like all I think about it. I don't see about like the different camera angles that we got in that section, so it's definitely interesting to kind of take in different ideas.
And honestly, this isn't a crazy skill that you got to acquire. It's not a very hard one. It's just like taking a second to ask why. If you see something deliberate, you go, okay, why are they having me do that? Or if you start to feel a certain type of way, if you feel your anxiety building up, you go, why? What's happening right now? Other than just the words that are being spoken. Is it the music? Is it the shot? Is it what is it? Because it was done on purpose, because that's exactly what they wanted to do. I'm excited, I'm scared, I'm nervous, whatever. Why am I feeling like that? And it's those little moments, and if you just stop for like just a second and go, then you pick up on all this stuff, and it becomes more than just something that you subconsciously feel. It's like, oh, I see what you did there. Not bad, not bad. Another one, when we were talking about like Marvel movies and Easter eggs, another one that came up, and I want to preface this by saying, like, Easter eggs and foreshadowing are not always just a cool tip to the cinematographer, but I did want to bring it up, and that is when they're in the helicopter and everyone goes to buckle up, and Dr. Grant has two like female seat buckles, yeah. And so that itself is not the cinematographer writing it so that way he has the two seat buckles and then he ties them together. It's not. But the way it was shot, it was we see everyone buckle up, buckle up, buckle up. Okay, we know everyone's buckling up, and then we see him go to do it. Uh-oh, something's wrong. There's the two female adapters for it. And then it cuts to everyone else. We notice it, and then he ties them together. Life finds a way. All that sort of crap. But also, I think it's really cool that they sort of foreshadow that a little bit. But the way that it's shot is to make sure that we notice it. Yeah. We see the confusion, we see the problem, and then we cut back. Everyone else sees the problem, so our attention is on it. And then he ties them together, and we're like, okay, problem solved. They solved the problem. And then obviously later on with the dinosaurs, it does that. So,
and it is little things.
Super fun.
Yeah, and it is little things like that, though, that kind of do separate a good movie and a very lazy movie. Because a lazy movie would have been someone saying, like, oh, that's crazy, you just had to tie your stuff together, instead of just shooting it properly and going through those, steps and stuff like that. So it is kind of cool to see, the proper way things can be done without having to say it.
Also, we're talking about like all of these, ooh, what is the meaning behind it? Or, oh, what does this symbolize? Or how does it make me feel? Sometimes it's just the job of the cinematographer is just to make stuff look cool too. Like the first time we go into like the Jurassic Park building, and it's this giant like museum with all the like browns and whites everywhere, and it looks like you're in this sort of like it's like a mixture of a museum and like a national park, and all of this really cool stuff, and you just, you're kind of sitting there like, whoa, or like the murals in there, the bones on the walls and stuff like that. It looks really, really cool, and it really makes you feel like you're immersed in the world even more. Because if you walk into that and it's just like a sterile gray walls, nothing going on, who cares about the set type thing, you don't have that like sense of wow, and you're not like, oh my god, we're in Jurassic Park. So part of their job is to really make you feel like you're immersed into the universe and immersed into the world of Jurassic Park. And I think they did it beautifully when they made that set. I thought it was great. And so that's another thing. And I bring that up because, like I said, it's not always, okay, but what does this symbolize? Sometimes it's just there to make you like it more and make you feel like you're there more and make it look more authentic.
And yeah, it's kind of, and that's why I'm excited to kind of get to dive into it today, because that's why I had such a difficult time the first time watching through the movie. I was trying to find these like little things all the time and not just, in a way, appreciating kind of the bigger things, just walking into an area, the first time seeing some of the dinosaurs. There are certain things that are just very noticeable, and it is no duh part of the movie rather than being a Coke can sitting on the third shelf down because for some weird reason, it is can just be those very just in your face moments.
Totally. And that's not to say that there aren't some awesome Coke can on the third shelf moments, but also I don't know, it's not really, they want you to see the things. They're doing it on purpose so that we don't have to take out a magnifying glass and go up to the screen and hunt. Like, it's meant to just make you feel a certain kind of way and make you look in this certain kind of way. But then there also are some more subtle ways to make you feel certain types of ways or pay attention more, and a lot of them have to do with how scenes are shot. First one that comes to mind here that I have on my notes is the life finds a way speech that Jeff Goldblum has. We see as he's giving this speech, the camera's literally zooming in on him, and then it goes down, so we see him get higher up, and it's subconsciously we are getting drawn into him because we're literally getting closer. And I know I'm saying literally a lot, but then we're also literally looking up to him. We are seeing someone get closer, so we're paying more and more attention to them, and then we're looking up to them. And so it's like every word that he says we're hanging on to just a little bit more than if it was a stationary, static, still shot of him and just speaking. It's just that little bit to convey that emotion of, this is serious, this is what you need to pay attention to, I am serious with this. Little stuff like that you don't really notice unless it's done poorly. Because like I said, if he's just sitting here, life finds a way, and he gives the whole speech and nothing moves, cool. But if we're getting closer and closer and closer, and it's getting a little bit more intense, and we're paying more attention, and then we're literally looking up at him, your brain's going, oh, well, I should probably listen to this sort of stuff. And that happens a few times in this movie when someone's speaking and we really want to make sure that the viewer is listening to this part and that this is going to stick and that it's going to have the impact that we want. We're going to zoom in on them a little bit so that way we know this is getting serious. And they do it a lot when something serious happens, and fear or whatever. A zoom shot can mean a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it's really like, let's pay attention to this,
Yeah, because I even think the first time that he says Jurassic Park in the beginning of the film, the two of them are sitting down, and then he kind of walks up, and it kind of pans up to him, and Jurassic Park, and then that's of course the biggest thing in the whole movie practically. So, it's so weird, just kind of the different ways it can be put in a movie, from an object being placed, a camera angle, the camera direction, the focus, all that kind of stuff. It just means so much more than you realize, and it's definitely the cool part about it.
Yeah, and another one with Dr. Malcolm is, another thing you can do when you're filming something is like focusing on what the focal point is. Like, why is this shot this way? Because what are they trying to get me to focus on? And I noticed it when they were arguing all at the table together, specifically at the beginning when the lawyer and Jeff Goldblum are arguing. The shots that are there are mostly with both of them in the frame. It'll be, Jeff Goldblum's face closer, but the lawyer in the background. And so that when we're watching this, we know this conversation is between these two, or at least these two are the main part of the conversation. And then right before he has the monologue on, you focused on if you could, you didn't stop to ask if you should, all that stuff, that whole speech. Right before that, instead of cutting back to where we see multiple people, it's a head-on shot of him. And again, we're zooming in a little bit. And so this is no longer a conversation between Dr. Malcolm and the lawyer. This is a statement that we need to hear. And this is getting us to focus on what he is saying instead of focusing on the dynamic between him and the lawyers. All of the focus is on him. And so that's where all of our focus is going to. And it's a really nice, subtle way to get the audience to go from this is multiple people having multiple points to this is what we need to focus on. And again, this is something that they did more than once, and it's something you'll see that's fairly common if there's an argument being had or even just conversations. The difference between an over-the-shoulder shot where you see both of them and then a close-up on someone's face, the impact of those statements is felt a lot more versus the over-the-shoulder or seeing more than one person in frame. Let's see what else I got. Oh, another great one about gathering information about some people. It's a subtle one, but I really liked it. It's when the kids first get there and they hug their grandpa on the stairs, and then they cut up to all three of them, Dr. Malcolm, Dr. Stantler, Dr. Grant, and they're all on the stairs. If you look at all of their faces, it beautifully shows who their characters are. Because Dr. Stantler's up in the middle, and she's loving it. She thinks it's adorable. Because this whole movie, throughout the movie, we see she loves the kids. She's trying to get Dr. Grant to like kids, and he doesn't like kids. But by the end, he's this, this protective father figure. And then Dr. Malcolm is this, he's always looking for the next future ex-Mrs. Malcolm, and he's got 3 kids, all this stuff. And so we know what they are. We know their attitude, even just something like towards kids. But in that moment, we see she's ecstatic. Dr. Grant is kind of like nervous and uncomfortable, and Dr. Malcolm is just kind of over it. He's looking at him like, oh God, these kids are going to be a bother. And so that's a really fun thing that if you pause that moment, you're like, she's happy. He is nervous and he's just over it. And it shows you, that's so in line with their characters. And that's something that in that split moment, so much information is conveyed and none of it is said out loud. And I really love small moments like that.
I think I'm going to have to rewatch this movie for the 3rd time in 24 hours just to really get to go back and appreciate all these little details now, because so many different scenes like that, I don't know, it's so weird because slowly through the second watch, I started to gather it more and more, and I'm excited for it's our 3rd or 4th time when we do one of these where I feel comfortable with everything I've seen to just completely dive into it. But yeah, it's just so weird seeing how you interpret things outside of just I don't know, I just see it, I'm like, yeah, those are just 3 people standing there. Kids are happy, yes. All right, next scene. I don't know, it's just so different.
I bet you pick up on that a lot more than you realize, though, because like I said, a lot of this is done intentionally. So it's not something that you're going to consciously think about unless you tell yourself to consciously think about it.
Yeah.
But that information is still felt, and you still learn about those characters, and you know about their personalities. And little stuff like that helps us to connect with those characters even more. And that's why in movies that this is done really well, you can find yourself really, really latching on to a character because of all those small moments that you might not think, but you feel. It sounds really convoluted and kind of pretentious, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in a movie that you don't make a mental note of, but that you do feel. And so movies that do that really well, that's why you make those connections like that. Another couple, I think we talked about this on one that got cut. If it didn't get cut, sorry to bring it up again, but Nedry's desk, that was a big one, and we talked about it with their trailer being messy. His desk is an absolute cluster. It's crap is everywhere. He's a slob. He's a sloppy slob of a man sitting in his desk. Just crap everywhere, garbage everywhere, wrappers everywhere. But if we look at the screens, There's 3 monitors on there. 2 of them have important information open, a bunch of folders, a bunch of different things. He's clearly a very busy man. But then the one behind him, there's just a chess game going on. And it's one of those things, everyone sort of associates chess with being a smart people game to play. And then we see this guy, yes, he's sloppy, yes, he's messy, and he's also very busy, so he clearly has a lot to do, but he also has the time and the intelligence to also just play a game of chess on the screen. And so in that moment, you're like, oh, your brain goes smart, messy, slob, genius, got it. All of that's conveyed just with a desk and some monitors. Another fun one, going back to zooms and shots, the one big pile of shit scene, when it's a simple one, but when Dr. Malcolm walks up to it, we don't see the pile yet. We zoom out on him walking, and then he stops, but we keep moving, and the pile gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when he says, that's one big pile of shit, that's when we're kind of at the end, and you're like, holy Jesus, yeah, that really, really is. This is huge. And it's not only like comically a bigger impact, but just a bigger impact when they do a slow reveal like that versus just a static shot of him walking up to something and then going, it's a big pile of shit. That sort of slow zoom out has us be like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. And it has that sort of hits a little harder and it's a little bit of a bigger feel, and then the line is even funnier because we get to have that moment with him. So little stuff like that. Another stupid little one I love, and we talked about this before, I love the shot when they're running away from the T-Rex, and then it cuts to the side mirror, and the T-Rex opening its mouth trying to bite them, and it says objects in mirror are closer than they appear. That's such a clever but insignificant shot, but I love it so much, and it kind of has this like weird cult favorite sort of thing about it where everyone who sees that shot loves that shot, and they even redid it in Toy Story as a joke because it's great. It's hilarious. Objects in mirror closer than they appear, and then it jump cuts to the dinosaur hitting the truck. Simple. Again, not everything is a pretentious deep dive into the symbolism of the emotion that we're going through at the time. It's just fun, funny, and sometimes it's a little stuff like that. I only have 3 more. Is there anything else you want to add in before I knock these out?
No, I don't think so. Again, I knew this episode and the last one was going to be a lot more for you to kind of dive into it. And again, this is fun for me because I get to kind of understand maybe things I didn't see as well, rather than because I can easily Google like things you may have missed, but a lot of it's like little Easter eggs and stuff like that, or things you didn't know about the movie. So it's nice to kind of get to hear it from someone who just watched the movie, just like I did, of course.
Totally, man. Another cool shot, and this goes more sort to the framing of a shot versus like the effects you can have with zooms and pans and stuff like that. When Dr. Sattler first gets into the shed when she's trying to reboot the power, when she runs away from the Velociraptor, she comes in and she closes the door behind her. It's completely dark. The only light source is behind her. We can't even see her face. And so logically, like, okay, she's in the shed and the lights are out. Duh, that's why it's dark. But also it has this feeling to it of mystery and suspense to it, because we as the viewer or the camera are at the bottom of the stairs and she's at the top of the stairs. The only light source is behind her. The only known anything, whether it's good or bad, the only thing we know of is behind her. The rest of it is a descent, literally a descent into darkness and mystery, because we've never been in this building before. The lights are out. We don't know what's going on here. And so that sort of adds to the suspense of like, not only is she being chased by a velociraptor, but now we have no idea where anything is. And so if you think about when she was in the jungle being chased by the velociraptor before she got there, it's light, bright out, is daytime, she's outside, she's in this open area, and that in and of itself has a lot of emotion behind it. You have that stress of, Jesus, she's being chased, holy crap. But now it's different. Now everything is mysterious, everything is dark, everything is unknown. And like I said, even her face, there's no light there. There's no information to be gathered. And then she descends into the darkness. And so that framing of the shot of her coming down and nothing around her, it sort of makes you feel like, uh-oh, I have no idea what's here. And all that is conveyed with a simple framing of the shot. Two more. You actually mentioned one of them, the mural of the Velociraptor in the dining hall. We see that throughout the whole movie, and it's not just a mural of a Velociraptor. It's a mural of a lot of dinosaurs. But if you look at a lot of the other dinosaurs, they're all in groups and they're all in pairs and they're all doing something. The Velociraptor is alone and it's hunting, and then we see the shadow come across, and it's like the portrait come to life, and I think it's just a really, really cool shot, and it's a really clever way to sort of tease out, like, there's going to be a Velociraptor in this room the whole time. And then the other one is one that I don't know if we talked about on the show, but we talked about it when we recorded our Wednesday episode. I absolutely love when the Velociraptor goes by the projector and its skin has the projection of all the A's, T's, C's, and G's, because like the whole setup for how they got Jurassic Park was messing with the DNA and the code for DNA, and it's all A's, T's, C's, and G's, and then to see it's like literally the projection come to life. We go from an animation about how DNA works to this thing that we know is made up of the DNA that we've been talking about this whole episode, and it's literally the code for it. A's, T's, C's, and G's all across its face and body. I think it's such a cool shot. And it's one of those things that, again, everyone sees and everyone notices. And then if you take a second and you're like, oh, that's amazing. And it's not, that sounded like I was proud of myself, pat myself on the back for noticing what letters DNA is made up for. It's not. It's a very easy thing to catch, and there are like thousands of articles out there about it. But I think it's such a brilliant shot to just like connect the DNA with the thing that it has created that is now a danger to everybody. It's absolutely beautiful. That's all I got, though. And there's so many more. There's so much more, and there's so much more for all of the movies. And, sorry, apparently my computer's about to die. It's all that little stuff. Like I said, the best way you could do it is just go watch a movie that you really like. And then anytime you start to feel a specific way, or you feel your feelings change, or you notice something that looks deliberate on the screen, like, they want me to see this. They were lingering on the shot for a little while, or there's something in the background, but it's in focus. Why? Why do they want me to see this? What does it mean? Or how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Nothing happened. They didn't have a jump scare, and that's not why I'm nervous or scared or anxious. But there's something. Is it the music? Is it the shot? Is it what? Just take a second and be like, okay, why? And then I don't know. I love doing that. It's so much fun to really sort of take a deep dive into movies. But I'm also a nerd and a dork, and I have too much time on my hands, so maybe it won't be that fun for you.
No, and like I said, and it is nice to kind of see the different ways that you are able to dissect certain scenes, different camera angles, all that. Because now it'll kind of make me think next time I'm watching a film, to be like, okay, like just take a moment and pause when I think something is saying something more than just what's verbally being said, of course. So it is nice to kind of hear the different, aspects to be able to dissect a movie. So it is cool. And I do think next time we either have a review or just do something like this again, it'll be much easier to kind of just really get into.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited for it. I love doing these nerdy little deep dives into some of the specifics of the shot. But before my computer dies, Brandon, tell the people where they can find us.
Yes, the people can find us real nice and easy, all the central hub of thenerdchambers.com. All of our stuff is on there, from TNC Movie Nights, all of our other shows as well. If you want to reach out to us, talk to us, chat with us, watch our other content, it is TNC Movie Nights, at TNC Movie Nights, everywhere, Twitter, Instagram. We really do appreciate it. If you like, follow, subscribe, anything and everything, thank you. And if you want to support us a little more directly rather than just sharing something, you can always support the merch. Got our wonderful little faces on the TNC Movie Nights shirt and the TNC hoodie, the show hoodie, of course, as always. But I think that's going to do it for us today. Next week, comedy breakdown of the 70s. We just watched a 70s movie, but we're going to do some more deep dive into the 70s next week. It's going to be a good time, and Alex will be right back there. Right,
He'll be there.
He'll be on screen again next week, so it's a lot of fun.
We'll be in the same room.
It's a lot of fun, man. I'm excited.
Looking forward to it, man.
All right, well, we will see you all next week, and again, thank you so much. Till next week.
See you guys.